Good morning. Hello, everyone. My name is Jana Johnson with the Tree Yoga Cooperative, and this is the last day of Black Liberation Week. It has been such a full week of celebration, of coming together, and just allowing ourselves to explore what liberation looks like, feels like, and means to us. Today, we have the pleasure again to be with Ruth King, who will be blessing us with mindfulness meditation and all of her presence and wisdom and insight. And I just want to remind us that we started this week with her last Monday, and she really set the tone for us about equanimity and what it looks like to see the world with patience and with that same equanimity in mind and body and spirit. And so I know that I've really had the pleasure to really practice that, play that out, and see what that feels like to be in that stillness in the midst of all that might be going on in our world. So thank you, Ruth King. I'm going to pass the mic to you once again for our mindfulness meditation.
Thank you, Jana. I appreciate it so much. And thank you to the Tree Yoga Co-op team and all of the beautiful energy that's gone into this week, all of the care and attention, and all of the deep seeds that have been planted in our hearts and our families and our communities. I'm just very grateful to be a part of this beautiful offering. I join you today. I'm seated on the unceded territory of the Paracu people in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. And I'm just so grateful to their efforts for caring for this land and just seeing all the grace and beauty that's been a manifestation of the care over the generations. So I join you there. I join you with my ancestors. I join you with the wise ones and the elders and all of you as teachers. I've enjoyed this week. I've participated in a few of the offerings, and it's just been a beautiful, heartfelt time for us to really be nourished and to know deeply who we are and where we come from. I just want to honor what I read the other day in The Hill about Viola Fletcher, who's 106, and she was talking to the House Judiciary Committee on May the 19th, reflecting on the Tulsa riots and killings. And this is what she said. She said, "I will never forget the violence of the white mob when we left our home. I still see black men being shot, black bodies lining the streets. I still smell the smoke and see fire. I still see black businesses being burned. I still hear airplanes flying overhead. I hear the screams." And she's 106, and she lived to talk about it, to remember, to have us not forget what has happened, what is happening, and that a part of our mindfulness practice is remembering that we rise. The theme today is Still I Rise, Maya Angelou. And so we don't forget our stories. They are, we rise as a result of them. We rise to remember and to have the suffering we've experienced be dignified and brought into light. And so today I just want to offer some contemplations for us. Because one of the ways that I grew up rising was through the doorway of artistry, through the doorway of art as a mindfulness practice. I want to plant that seed for us today. Toni Morrison says that if we are creating, we belong, and if we belong, we continue to be here, something like that. So I just want to offer some practices for us to settle and to remember that we stand on the shoulders of just tremendous strength and beauty and legacy and love. And it took all of them, all of our ancestors, for us to be here, to sit here, to be together in this way. Our ancestors are giggling at the fact that we're doing yoga and working with our mind and celebrating our lives and freeing our hearts. So this is a really important threshold that we sit on with this, the Tree Yoga community, and also other efforts that we're doing, other offerings that we've received this week to take care of ourselves. So let's begin again by settling ourselves in the body. And what we do first is to establish mindfulness. We establish it by bringing intention to this moment. So we close our eyes or cast them downward. We turn our attention inward and drop down. And as I speak these words, I want you to experience them from the inside. So connect in this moment to the experience of settling. It's an experience to be known. Really taking your time to feel how gravity's working with you right now to fully arrive in your seat. Throughout our time together, I want you to practice with the mantra. When you inhale, you can mentally say, I rise. And when you exhale, you can mentally say, I rest. So take a moment to just establish that rhythm and the stillness of the body, the movement of the breath. With your inhale, I rise. Sit up a little straighter even. Feel the crown of your head connecting with the sky. And when you exhale, I rest, I surrender, I let go, I soften, I settle. So I want you to maintain a certain awareness of this rhythm. And I will be offering a few quotes and reflections. But I just want you to touch them. I don't want you to try to hold onto them. Just let them wash through you. Like rhythms, like songs. Toni Morrison says that our race-inflected culture not only exists, it thrives. The question is whether it thrives as a virus or as a bountiful harvest of possibilities. Art is the community's medicine for the worst disease of mind, the corruption of consciousness. In the Buddhist tradition, we're taught that there is suffering, and suffering is to be understood. So what has suffering taught you about beauty? About artistry? I rise and I rest. James Baldwin says, people who do not suffer can never know who they are. Toni Morrison. Art invites us to know beauty and to solicit it from even the most tragic of circumstances. Dr. Michael Yellowbird speaks of decolonizing the mind. Decolonizing is to return to cultural ways, stories and rituals and spirits, to return to ceremonies and expressions that mimic the truth. And that's the role of art. The role of art is not to have answers, but to have questions, to be both incomplete and perfect, unfinished and enough. To always be entering into the middle of the unknown, wobbly and powerful, clear and frightened, curious and interested in what we don't know. We make art. We make art because our lives are ungraspable, uncarryable, impossible to navigate without it. Art isn't a superficial addition to our lives. It's as necessary as oxygen. Art allows us to find a way to agree to suffering, to include it and not be broken, to say yes to what actually is, and then to say something further. Something that changes and opens the heart, the ears, the eyes, the mind. A work of art is always a conversation, not a monologue. It's Jane Hirschfield. The appreciation of jazz is one of the few places where a certain kind of race transcendence or race transcendent embrace is possible. Toni Morrison. I rise and I rest. Freeing yourself is one thing. Claiming ownership of that freedom, that freed self, is another. to ripen your artistic expression as a mindfulness practice, and to practice mindfulness is artistry. Both supports awareness and attunement and connection. Rumi says, "When I am silent, I fall into that place where everything is music." Stillness is as close to music as we can get. Toni Morrison. Knowing how to be solitary is central to the art of loving. When we can be alone, we can be with others without using them as a means of escape. Bell Hooks. I rise and I rest. Many of our ancestors and wise elders set an example of strength, dignity, and resilience. And some of them were awful. But it took all of them to get us here. Their unfinished struggles are transformed through our wise actions and service. Our ancestors are happy that we're working on freedom. My great-grandmother whispers in my ear and tells me she's happy that I'm doing walking meditation instead of walking and worrying. The nature of art is collective. It puts us in the heart of mystery, and it insists on us being more curious and intimate with the complexity of our lives. Audre Lorde says, the sharing of joy, whether physical, emotional, psychic, or intellectual, forms a bridge of understanding that is not shared. A bridge of understanding what is not shared, and it lessens the threat of distance. Let me say that again. The sharing of joy, whether physical, emotional, psychic, or intellectual, forms a bridge for understanding what is not shared, and it lessens the threat of distance. Toni Morrison. I am a writer, and my faith in the world of art is intense, but not irrational or naive. Art invites us to take the journey beyond price, beyond costs, and to bearing witness to the world as it is and as it should be. Art invites us to know beauty and to solicit it from the most tragic of circumstances. Art reminds us that we belong here, and if we serve, we last. Art is critical to the understanding of what it means to care deeply and to be human completely. rise and I rest, resting in the wisdom of the wise ones. Surrendering to a rich legacy of artistry and beauty. What truth about yourself, about your goodness, do you need to trust more? The world changes by your example, not by your opinion. Martin Luther King Jr. says, "The nation and the world are in dire need of creative extremists." And Howard Thurman says, "Don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and then do that. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive." I rise and I rest. You can only be as free as your mind can imagine. What is not imagined is not attempted. I write about people doing what they do as though there were no boundaries. Octavia E. Butler. What truth about your goodness do you need to trust more? What truth about yourself, about your goodness, do you need to trust more? Make whatever you do a work of art, a ceremony, a light, an offering, a legacy. Be an example. Let your heart be wild and free, and a wise artist. Know that this is your inheritance. You're already free. You're already art. Step into the light. Don't apologize for shining. I rise and I rest. Toni Morrison says, your life is already artful, waiting, just waiting for you to make it art. Take a couple more breaths here. And when you're ready on your next inhale, you can gently open your eyes, come back to us. And take a moment in your own way to extend a sense of appreciation for our time together in this moment, this past week, this past 100 years. And remember your light, remember you are art. The nature of art is collective. And know that when you're doing yourself, when you're being your artful self, you're serving the community. We're really benefiting from your light. So shine bright, rise. And I wish you all the love imaginable for this beautiful ending today that we'll all be celebrating. Thank you so much for your attention and your time. Sending much love. Thanks to all of you.
The street is all done.